All right. I want to welcome you
Yes,
to the
yes.
Collective Bargaining Podcast. We are back. Atway Campbell, and I'm joined by Michael Hercules. What's up,
That's
man?
right. I was good, man. How you doing?
Oh
It's
man,
been
it feels like forever, right? Since the last episode.
it's only been a couple of days, but it feels like a long time.
Yeah, no. It's only been a couple days, man. But it's always good talking ball and just enjoying the sport, man. Taking in this season after what seems like an eternity without the fans, right, in the stands. So finally, we have things sort of back to
Yes.
normal. A lot of players still missing
Slow.
time, messing up the fantasy rosters.
A lot of injuries.
A lot of injuries, a lot of injuries. It's one of those things that we just have to cope with in this season. Players are gonna catch COVID. They're gonna get locked up for 10 days, or until they have like a double positive or negative test.
Yeah.
That's the PCR. So it's players are gonna miss time. Your fantasy rosters are gonna be destroyed this season. So, I mean, my teams actually suck. How you doing in fantasy, by the way?
Oh God. No. I don't have the words to describe how I'm doing
Yeah.
in fantasy basketball right now because I had a week where half of my team was injured and like two or three players had COVID. I was like,
Right, right.
so I
That
just
that can
lost.
be that can be absolutely brutal, man. That can
Yeah,
be brutal. Someone says the champ is here. Yeah. Welcome to the
yeah.
show. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, champ. Welcome, champ.
Yeah. So today pretty much we have a lot of topics lined up with some extra bonus clips for you. But today we're gonna be talking about the weekly review of games. What's happened over the last few days since we spoke. Also, too, we have our individual MVP rankings thus far, so far this season. Just a top five list. And also, we'll talk Lakers, their lineup. We'll also give our version of the NBA power rankings, and we'll then talk about. And this was by demand last episode. We'll talk the art of war, the Warriors. What's really going on with the Warriors?
Warriors.
So very specific. We'll keep it short. We'll try not to jump into some random debate on although that's highly unlikely, right? With the NBA, there's
Man,
always a debate in front of you,
God,
or
this
this
guy.
guy on the other side there likes to drop traps, booby traps for you to fall into, so we end up in some debate, but that's what the show is all about.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, half my team is, I would say, on I'm in four fantasy leagues. I'm just answering a
Ooh.
question there. I'm in four fantasy leagues, and I'm doing horrible because I have at least three injuries for every team across the board, and that's including players affected by COVID right now. So it's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I don't
I
disagree. I'm only in two leagues,
yeah.
and in both leagues I'm suffering. Those
Yeah,
injuries are just killing me, killing
it's
me.
my drafting feels useless. All the research, everything that goes into the drafting just feels like trash right now, So,
You should have just auto picked and then
I,
be over
well,
with
I'm telling you, but
it.
how do you auto pick when you have Michael Porter in the top 10, ranked
Yeah,
by Yahoo
no,
and
uh,
ESPN? I mean, how in the world do you put Michael Porter? I mean, I don't want to even
I
spend too much time discussing that, but how do you rank this guy as a top 10 player in the NBA? Tell me.
I was trying to figure out how they did their ranking because it made no sense to me.
No,
I was
no,
just like, all right.
I have the perfect explanation for you, man. Perfect explanation. And that's the HR staff had to step in because the people that normally do it were probably affected by COVID. So you had HR managers putting the rankings together for NBA players. I mean, Michael Porter ranked top 10 in the
Top
league.
10.
Are you crazy?
I saw it. I didn't say anything. I was just like, all right, let's
I,
go.
honestly, I don't even know what to say. So, we'll start by going through some of the scores this weekend. So on Saturday, the Heat faced the Jazz. To me, no
Good
surprise.
game.
the Heat coming out of that one. I mean,
That
you
was a
look at
good game,
Tyler
man.
Hero off the bench. You look at the balance that the Heat have right
Six man
now.
of the year.
I mean, it's obvious. Unless he slows down drastically, this is one of those that's just automatic for me.
Yeah, he's
Um,
definitely six man of the year. He's been
yeah,
playing, coming off the bench, being productive,
yeah,
scrapping. He's doing a
yeah,
lot more things than he did in the bubble, and he did
right,
say that he was going to do that.
yeah.
So it's good to see that he's backing up that
So
talk.
let me ask you a question. What exactly happened to Tyler Hero last season? Because we had players coming back to stadiums, and he just wasn't. It felt like he stayed in the bubble, didn't show up. What happened to him in your in
I,
your in your view?
I think that he just didn't adjust properly.
Right,
So the bubble is, a bubble of no fans. It's just it feels more like a lot of players have said that it feels like a pickup game with refs.
right,
So everybody during a pickup game can play ball.
yeah.
But when you bring the fans back, and then you have to adjust back to the fans, and then all the noise
It's
and all
it's
the pressure, it's
completely different,
completely different.
completely
So
different. Yeah,
I think that's what it was. I mean, there could have been
yeah.
another reason, but that's what I think.
I got that. I got that. One for me that was surprising, well, was actually the Pelicans game. The Pelicans beating the Grizzlies. Um, I tend to wonder, when will fans start thinking, okay, when are we gonna get that consistency and growth? What moves can we make in terms of the Grizzlies to start, elevating themselves into that top 6 team area? Is that even possible? This year, next year for the Grizzlies? And if so, what's needed, to do that?
Well, for the Grizz, it's going to be difficult because they're a small market team, and for a small market team, it's a little difficult for them to get stars or even superstars. They got lucky with Ja because they drafted him.
Right,
So is he enough for another player to say, "All right, I want to go play with Ja"? I don't think so. They probably
right,
have to go. They probably have to get a trade with somebody just to get another star over there,
right,
just
right.
so they can
Yeah,
see what they
that's
do. Or they could probably do like a Boston route and get some nice picks and pick a squad.
yeah, it's that's definitely true. So it's going to take some time. I mean, based on what you're saying, I'm thinking, it's going to take either you shift your your pretty much front office staff around to get things right, or you make some drastic decisions regarding your players and try to get some
Yeah,
pieces in to improve. But right now, I just don't see that consistency where we could say, you know what, these guys are going to be a top 6 team. They're going to avoid a play-in, and get going. And I think you're going to be in a situation where, with a play-in later on in the season, you're still going to run into teams like the Lakers, like, possibly running into that area because, again, average age of the Lakers 30.1 years old, I think. So they're
yes.
pretty old, and not getting younger. So you're going to see more and more injuries. They're going to try to rest, and I think the team suffers throughout the season, probably dropping into that maybe 6, 7, 8 area and playing
Definitely.
as a result. So, yeah, so teams like the Grizzlies, they have to either try and make some serious drastic decisions, which I don't think they will because of the youth they have and the potential. Maybe they keep it waiting and just let the players grow for a while,
Yeah,
and
I
go
think that's
from there.
the
Yeah,
that's the best course for small
yeah,
market teams. They either
right,
get like a good pick or like they get somebody traded. Otherwise, they
right.
stick with the team, or
Yeah,
and who works and who doesn't work, they let them go.
yeah, yeah. No, no, I agree. I agree. The Wizards versus the Magic. So we had the Wizards coming out on top. Again, to me, no surprise here, coming on top of the Orlando Magic. Um, that team, I mean, the Wizards. You look at the construction of this team. I thought it was going to be really bottom of the barrel, still struggling. They're going to probably use some of the pieces because, remember, in the NBA you need chemistry, right? I was looking at it from that angle where here are all of these players coming in. Of course, you have a scorer in Beal. They're going to build around him, obviously. But to me, I still thought that with those pieces they had, they would still need to take some time to really get things together. And even in my wildest dreams, I didn't imagine them gelling this quickly and doing this well, even from a potential standpoint. So for me, because they're beating they're beating teams easily, and they're attractive to look at in terms of the basketball they're playing. So for me, that's just amazing to see. I'm exceptionally happy for Harrell. Coming off
Oh,
that stint with the
definitely.
Lakers, I mean, it's almost like letting the shackles loose and just watching this guy ball out once again. Um, what do you think about the Wizards, man?
All right, so think about the team that they have. They have
Yeah,
Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer,
I
you
know,
got
right?
Spencer. You got Spencer.
It's
You
one of
got
those games,
Beal.
right?
Yeah, you got Spencer. You got Beal. You got
Yeah,
Montrez. You got
right,
Kuz, and you got another set of role players. And
right,
that's when you think about the talent that they got
right.
back from Westbrook, and then picking up Spence
Yeah,
in that sign and trade, yeah,
yeah,
right.
sign and trade.
It's
Yeah,
it was a great pickup because they
right,
got pieces that they never had before, and
right.
then you also have to add in that the coach, the sets that he's running are
Yeah,
great sets. Did you
yeah,
see the last play where Kuz hit the game-winning three? That was a brilliant set for that last play. Like you had four options on the end of that play. It was absolutely brilliant. And
yeah.
throughout the
It's
games, he runs great plays. He has great sets,
and
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 that's one
that
of the key factors for them winning.
right, and that's gonna come back to our conversation about the Lakers later on, because after seeing the impact a new team and how effective in that system of play those players have been since leaving the Lakers. And we have a lot of evidence, right? We have players like Lonzo, we have Ingram, we have all of these guys that played under Vogel for a short part of a season, or actually an entire season. They had a full season
Yeah,
under him.
they had a season.
And then later the next year, we saw more players transition out as the Lakers, wipe the slate clean and ship players off to bring in other players, right? So we'll have more to talk on with that. The What about the 76ers? We had the 76ers losing, of course, to the Pacers. Again, I remember us
Okay.
talking last episode, where I had mentioned their contenders, and you looked at me like, I'm not sure what strain of what you're smoking is but yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, when healthy with Embiid in the East, I think they're contenders. Um, when injured, which is
Second round.
expected, they may be out the first round, given how crazy the East is right now. Because you're talking 1 through 5 being strong enough to make a run, and if they get hot enough during a series, they can beat each other. To me, so with that said, it's not surprising with the injuries they have that and all the turmoil, that I think they would lose to a team like the Pacers, who really, I mean, if you remember me showing you some statistics for the bench coming off for Indiana is really a sleeping giant, because they have players that can put up numbers, stats across the board. Now it's just about getting it together, getting the right system of play, and having an impact on the match. That's the main thing. And to me, that hasn't happened yet for the season. So maybe this is the turning point, but it's hard to gauge that based on beating the 76ers, who we know are beaten up right now. So what's your thoughts on that?
All right. So the thing about the 76ers is, I don't think they're contenders right now.
Yeah.
I think they're playing over the emotions from the whole Ben Simmons um, drama.
Yeah.
And as such, they pull together to have this nice little chemistry and make a little run out of it. But even with Embiid, I don't think they got Embiid, you got um, Tobias, and I don't think they're
Yeah.
enough. They don't have enough pieces to give any of the top four from the East.
Right.
I don't consider them as in the top four in the East. I have to give the top four in the East a run. So I said max playoffs, they make it to the second round. They might be
Right.
a fifth or sixth seed, but I don't see them going past the first round. Maybe
As currently
second,
constructed. Right.
as currently constructed. They have to
Right.
they have to figure out what they're doing with Ben.
Yeah, they
Once
have
they
to.
could
They have to.
once they could trade Ben for a decent player or some players, two different players, I think they can make a better run. But and then they could probably reach the cap of the second
And like I
round.
said the last time, that does not happen unless Ben plays at some point for the 76ers this season.
But Ben's not playing.
Well, that's where you have that problem, right? Because if he doesn't play, I think teams look at it from a perspective: can this guy shoot? Has he improved? And you cannot. I mean, for a front office, it has to be extremely bad for a front office to take a chance on Ben Simmons right now.
So you're saying that you wouldn't take Ben Simmons on your
I
team
would
right
not take Ben Simmons.
Mm.
In other words, put me hypothetically on any team right now as the front office,
Any
as a
team,
general manager on any
any
team right
team.
now, and ask me if I would take Ben Simmons. Go ahead.
Do I have to call it? Can I
Call a
call a
team.
team?
Call a team. I'm the GM of that team that you call out right now.
Orlando Magic.
I'm not taking Ben Simmons.
Come on.
I'm not taking Ben Simmons.
Houston Rockets.
Houston Rockets. Okay, I see what you're saying. Hold on. No, I go through a rebuild. I go through a rebuild.
So you're just going to leave John Wall and not trade him?
Yeah, no. I go through a rebuild. Now, some people say that's crazy, but what am I getting with Ben Simmons in Houston?
You're getting.
You see fans coming in. You see fans filling seats in a stadium to see Ben Simmons.
Yes. Once he leaves.
I don't see it, but that's okay. That's okay. Providing he gets a shot. Providing he can shoot the ball.
Ben is already a superstar.
Now,
right? Borderline superstar.
He's a star. I wouldn't go as far as saying a superstar.
Superstar was a bit of a stretch. But boy, he's a borderline.
That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering about, you know. But
he's already an all-star. He's a star.
Yeah.
And he's playing under the shadow of Joel Embiid. So once he gets his own team where he can do what he wants to, or even, doesn't feel like he's being clamped down, I think he needs to go to a small market team where there's not much media on it. Like what Lonzo did.
I just wonder if a team should take their chance, because I'm looking at trading for a Ben Simmons versus a rebuild, taking your time and really organically trying to find something in the market, trying to find something through a draft.
I'll make that trade.
Yeah, I mean, given what I know from the scout report, seeing that it's partially true, some of the reports, I just could not make a move, especially if I'm responsible, knowing what a small market team has to put up with already against large teams. You really can't afford to mess this up. And I think the longer this goes on for Ben, if he comes out of this, he gets an opportunity with a team and still can't shoot, I think he's really in a bad place after all of this. So I hope for him.
I disagree with you there. If he doesn't, if he's still not able to shoot even after all of that, we know it's not. Is that he doesn't have the ability to shoot? It's just that he doesn't want to shoot. And why?
Absolutely.
Why doesn't he want to shoot? That's the problem.
Yeah. So we'll move on from the 76ers, the Pistons and Raptors. I think two teams that we know for sure are not contenders. It's really just two bottom feeders here. I think the Pistons eventually will.
That's a play-in tournament. They're playing tournament teams.
Pretty much. I think eventually what will happen here is I think you will have, the Pistons doing a sell-off. They do have some pieces which I think could complement contenders. So I think what you're going to see is really a move towards doing some trades, getting some draft picks in, and starting over from scratch again. I think that's what happens with Detroit.
I feel like they've been doing that for years, though. So for the last 3-4 years, that's what they've been doing. They've been getting contracts of players and just sending them off to there, sending them off to some picks. And you're not going anywhere, just spitting top in mud. It's like, what are you doing?
It's a sad thing, and I do think that teams tend to get into this vicious cycle of trying to rebuild, and eventually you just realize that these players that you've constructed simply cannot take you anywhere. They're more complements that you have, and within those pieces do not lie a talent that is going to transform your culture and your team. And I think Detroit knows that at this point. So I think that's why, regardless of how vicious it is, I mean, look at Chicago, right? And some of the stress they've had in trying to rebuild. Finally, they got rid of some of the old personnel that have been around with the cobwebs in the front office for quite a while now. So, and they've
Right.
been able look at what they've been able to do. So I think maybe you
I
see
mean,
some
granted, they didn't have the same players and contracts
true,
like Detroit has.
true, true,
So
true,
they had a bit more flexibility once they got
true.
once they replaced the
Yeah,
front office. So
yeah.
and that's what happened.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think in that regard, I think you definitely see a rebuild there. The Raptors, I think they try to play out because they have some players that are fan favorites over in Toronto. So I don't really see them going into a rebuild and getting rid of some of those players.
Yeah.
Remember, in Toronto, it's across the border is a very different story in terms of difficulty levels and getting star names to play for you.
Unless you get it
And
traded.
exactly. So when you have some talent, I think the strategy over there is to really keep them as long as you can, and I think that's what they're gonna do. Maybe try to find a rental again, like Kawhi, at some point. Maybe that. I mean, that was just perfection the way it was pulled off. But I think they'll have to strive for something like that again. Get another compliment to go with those guys and carry them. Um, as to how easy, who knows? The other game, which your boys, the Celtics, they ended up losing to the Cavs. The Cavs, which is really, I mean, the Cavs are a transformed team, right? They have a lot of youth now. They have a lot of pieces
Yes.
that have come together. Larry McKinnon, even though
But
he's injured right now,
they have veteran leadership
they
with
do.
Ricky
They
Rubio.
do. They do. And they've been playing under that veteran leadership, the mix of Kevin Love and others for quite a while now, right? So so you have Garland and Sexton that have really stepped up this season. And they seem to have a certain I don't want to say it's complete consistency, but far more than they've had over the past few years. So what you're
Yeah,
starting to
they're
see
definitely
is
learning.
before in the season where they were getting 15 to 20 wins, you'd see like one odd upset. But now you're actually seeing a bit more consistency in the wins column, and it's translating pretty well. So, I mean, the Celtics are not at their strongest, but they're still a respectable team expected to beat the Cavs in my books, right?
Okay,
I
that's fair.
don't think Tatum did play. Jalen Brown didn't play. He's out.
Jalen
Um,
still he's still out.
yeah, he's out. But Schroeder has really stepped up in his absence, right? I think he dropped, a
30.
high 20 point game, and then he dropped like 38 points
Yeah, he
or
dropped to
something along
38
those
the other
lines.
night.
So,
Yeah.
so he's been doing pretty good out there, doing what he couldn't do at the Lakers at the right time, right? So different system, of course, a lot of things, and
Yeah.
plus he was coming off of an injury, I believe, when he joined the Lakers, right, and stepped in just as the playoffs were coming in. So yeah, it's hard to judge him really. He's a respectable player. I mean, look at how he
No,
was
no, he's
doing
a
damage
good.
next to Chris Paul, right? So I don't want to critique him too much. Um,
He's been good. He's been good.
the next game that we had was really the Timberwolves and Clippers, right? You had the Clippers pulling off a 129-102 win over the Timberwolves. Paul George is having an MVP season. I
I
think
do
that's
not
going by
disagree.
quietly. I think because of all the noise that Steph, KD, DeRozan are
And the
having.
losing Lakers.
Yeah, yeah. Someone had typed in, Celtics still going and underachieving pretty much. Yeah, they definitely
It's the
are.
system. It's the
Yeah,
system that they have right now. That's what it
right,
is.
right. They definitely are. But Paul George is really stepping up, man, and taking that weight. I think he's going to be in the conversation, depending on the record that the Clippers have. It's really ideal for him to step up and try to be in that conversation. He's been one of the top players in the league for a number of years now, right? So
Yeah,
to step forward,
playoff Cleveland has been playing
yeah,
well. The
right,
problem is when Kawhi gets back, or when he's playing with Kawhi, it's a little difficult for them. It's like it's back when LeBron and D Wade got together. It was like, all
right,
right, you go, and then I'll go, and I'll
yeah,
go, and
yeah,
then you go.
yeah,
It wasn't like smooth like it is now, where I'm the guy here, so I'll just go, right? I go, I get buckets, pass the ball. If I need to pass the ball, I get a rebound, I get a steal. We play, I hustle, but it's they're overthinking it. So
yeah,
what happens is right now there's no Kawhi, so
yeah.
he's just playing ball, and it's
Fluid.
amazing to see.
It's really
Yeah, it's
fluid.
really
Yeah,
fluid.
yeah.
And so
It's
that's a problem with the Clippers right now, because it's like
right.
you go, I go. It's like a 1A and a 1B.
Right. I agree with that. So those were the Saturday games. We got a little clip to show you, random clip here, and we're gonna talk about it after this clip plays. Okay, so stay tuned.
The whole time while I was there, I only wanted to see him be an MVP of our league. I only cared about his success.
We got Kyrie, some respect for Kyrie being shown
The
here.
most skilled player in the game, sir.
I can be very critical of Kyrie. You know,
That's an
sometimes I'm called.
understatement.
I know sometimes I'm called a hater, but the key thing here is maintaining respect for what that player has done. I wanted to just show some respect to him because he's a player that has shown us the ultimate level of champagne basketball. Someone that is just smooth in every aspect of the game. His finishing package is straight out of 2K. You know, his handling is better than what you're able to achieve in the game. Changes every year. He adds pieces and pieces to it. And you know, something about Kyrie I don't see. I don't see those videos of him as to how he trains. I don't think I've seen those. Like,
No,
who's his
I've never
trainer
seen.
handles
I've never
wise, you
seen
know?
an actual video of him.
I have not. I have not. I've seen James Harden, the people showing him new moves, etc., and breaking it down, what
Yes.
to do for that year. But I have never, in all of his years, seen how he does it, his training regimen. You know, at some point, I'm hoping something like that later in his career drops, and we get to actually see like what was behind all of this, the
Yeah.
handles, the finishing. You know, I hope something like that does come out. But kudos to Kyrie, respect. I don't know if you wanted to add anything there, man. I know you
mean-
got a deep love for his game, you know. So I'll let you be, man.
I mean, I don't have much to say about Kyrie. It's just that more or any more to add than what you just said. I
Right.
just think he's the most skilled player in the game. He
Right.
shoot the three. He can poke in the post, even though he's a small guy. He works in the post, he will get in the key, give you the mid range. He finishes with the left, he finishes with the right. I mean,
Yep.
what more could you ask for? He falls over the right shoulder, he goes over the left shoulder. Come on. The skill package is there. Kyrie's one of the greatest players I've ever seen, man. It's just that it doesn't translate well
Yeah.
with his personality on the teams. That's all.
Yeah. That's where I come in. You know, that's where the borderline, the respect starts. It doesn't fade, but that's where I open the topic up on Kyrie to debate, because I think even with the skills package he has, I think his impact on winning is limited, especially when he doesn't have a greater player than himself available. He is not, in my books, a leader. He is not as impactful as his game spells out on paper. So if you were to lay out Kyrie's skills package on a sheet of paper, I would tell you this is the greatest player that ever lived,
Correct.
without a doubt. If you were to tell me what Kyrie could do and his skills, I'll tell you that is the GOAT. But then I look at Kyrie's stats, I look at his actual games, which I've done over the course of his career, and I can tell you, and I can tell every Kyrie fan, it's you can almost argue that he's underachieved. And I'm not talking about let's blame the coach, let's blame the system, which I know you'll cut into, but that's a whole different conversation, right? I think he's underachieved in what he is responsible for on the court. And I blame him a lot for, you know, the decisions that were made, because I would argue he should have stayed in Cleveland, regardless of if you know the team wanted to trade you. Stay where you have a superstar that wants to see you become the MVP, not others that want to compete with you to be MVP. And I think that's what's happened to him. But now he's on a more balanced team, but we know what's happening, right? So, yeah. So just wanted to show some love and respect despite my critique towards the player. I know you love your Kyrie, man. So
Respect to Kyrie,
wanted to
bro.
give a shout out. Um, now Sunday had some more games. We had LA versus the Spurs. I know you're a Spurs guy. I mean, LA pulled off a 114-106 victory there. Now LA, we have them coming up in the chat here, but to be honest, we know what's going on with them. I don't want to spend too much time on them right now because we got them coming up. But what's going on with the Spurs this season?
It's a mixture between like a rebuild and trying to see what we have.
Right.
That's and it's also got to add into the fact that Pop is just dangling the retirement.
Yeah, he is.
So it's not like you have a sure future.
Yeah.
So like, all right, this is where we need to go. This is the pieces we need to get. But they still have the system in play. I mean, and they're playing good ball. It's just that they don't have the star power.
They don't have the star power, man. They don't have the star power, man.
That's the only thing.
Yeah.
And that's the problem right now.
It's like having, I don't know how much people watch Formula One, but I'll just make a comparison. The Spurs to me are like Mercedes without a Lewis Hamilton. You got the Toto in Pop. You got the car in the system, but you just don't have a Lewis Hamilton. You don't have that player to take you through the field, man, and get that victory, So, yeah, hopefully, I mean, I really wanted to see Pop go out on a bang, get a title and just walk away. And I think he had that opportunity. But then again, in the same breath, when you have such a talented guy, just let him play out his career, man. If he wants to stay, if he wants to leave, it's his choice, right? For what he's given to the game. Top 2 coach all time for me in basketball.
Definitely.
You ask me, top 2 all time. Yeah. He said they had Wilbur said they had actual DeRozan last season. So what happened there? They had star power there, but yeah, I'll let you answer that one.
I mean, he wasn't the star power for the system.
Right.
Because don't forget, he changed his game a lot when he got to Spurs. He got more control of the ball. He learned how to pass more. He extended his range to the 3. He started to play better defense. So the system wasn't bad for him. It's just that he wasn't the piece to take them over the edge. Right? That's mainly what it came down to. But while he wasn't the piece, the team also didn't have all the other pieces to put around him properly. They just needed one more guy in there, and they just couldn't get it.
I'll tell you now.
San Antonio is like a small market team too.
Yeah, they are, actually. They are. Unique town, by the way. Sports town. Heavy on the sports. I would say that the Bulls are actually reaping the benefits of DeRozan's experience with Pop. They are reaping. Have you seen this guy's game? If you tell me he's the same player,
fantastic.
he is so much more patient, man, in just letting the game come to him and the efficiency, etc. He's just a mature guy right now.
He learned a lot of that when he was on the Spurs.
Right.
Take the game into his control.
Yep.
Slow it down. Get the shots you're looking for. Learn how to pass better. Learn how to read defenses better. You learn all. If you look at this game on the Raptors, look at tapes of him on the Raptors, and then look at tapes of him now on the Bulls. Completely different player, and the reason for that is Spurs. Right.
So I'm going to skip through some of these. The Nets. We know what the Nets are doing. That's another conversation that we're going to have. They went through the Thunder pretty easily. We had the Hornets actually upsetting the Warriors. The Warriors have been on a tear, as we know. But
that was an off game for the Warriors. That's all.
Yeah, it was an off game, I want to say. But you have to give credit to the transfer of talent that's come through the Hornets organization and the work that they've done to really turn things around. I think they have the right motivated players right now, a good front office. I think they're going to do well in the next few years. They have a lot of years ahead of them. Right now, it's for the entertainment. Oh yeah, he did a good job. So I think you're going to see them coming up and up and up. Right now, I think, what are they, top 5 in the East right now? Maybe I think you see them bounce back and forth. I think at the end of the day, maybe they slip to 6th, just outside. I think they avoid the play.
Finish like 6-7,
Yeah, I think maybe they just do enough. Yeah, so there's a chance that they get into the play-in, but I think it's a team that can probably get to the second round. I just think once you get to playing those top 5 teams in the East, I think it's over for you. But it's good to see actually what's going on with that organization. The Bulls versus the Clippers. The Bulls beat the Clippers. They're on.
It's a good
They've been
game.
running through LA actually, so I think they played LA and they beat LA as well,
They
right?
beat
So,
LA as well. Yeah.
so that's great to see. I mean, we're seeing really in this city an excitement about the Bulls. I would not just yet call them a title contender, but I think they can go very, very far. Um, when it comes to the playoffs. So I think you see them at least minimum, let's say, second round, minimum. I don't want to say more than that right now. I need to see what happens. Maybe a few extra pieces get added in. But we all know what happens playoff time, right? The playoffs slow everything down, and it really relies on experience. And when I look around the Bulls locker room, who's that experienced guy?
It's not much experience.
So
the thing about the Bulls is where they are right now, they're playing good ball.
Right.
They didn't expect that coming out of training camp.
Right.
But it makes you wonder: are they going to stay this forever? Is this their peak? Will they go up another level?
Exactly.
And when they reach that level, when it's coming closer to and teams start to clamp down, are they going to shift it into another game?
Right. And for me, actually, Wilbur is saying he can afford to be because he has Levine and he's not the man. DeRozan can't handle that pressure of being the man. I mean, I think it's fairly split. I think he's hearing right now that he's in the MVP conversation. So I think despite hearing that, you look at his numbers, I think he just dropped like 33 points, couple assists, couple rebounds just the other day, maybe 1 or 2 threes. So, I mean, he's hearing that and still performing. So that's good to see that at least there's some spotlight. And Chicago is like the 3rd largest city in the United States, right? So he's officially in a large market
lot of
right
media
now.
coverage.
Exactly. And the Bulls have their culture. You don't perform, that crowd is going to let you know what's going on, So at the end of the day, I'm happy for him, I'm happy for him. We'll see. And I agree with you. Playoff time, I just don't see the experience in that locker room. I think what you may see is come free agency time, I think maybe they sign maybe a couple of vets, 1 or 2 vets, just to complement those guys and, just steer them down the right track when the game slows down in the playoffs.
And don't forget, we haven't seen a duo like that, a shooting guard and small forward duo like that, unless it's Brooklyn.
Right. Exactly.
And they are 2 high-level players, and they're interchangeable at a 2 and 3. So
they are.
So
yeah. No, you're right.
High-level scoring.
Wilbur was saying that if he's in the MVP race, as in DeRozan, then Randall has to be in that race too. I mean, I would put Randall. Let's say we have A, B, and C. I would put Randall in the B category. For me, in the A category. And I think we have the power rankings coming up, right? I think we got to get to the top 5. So I think we'll actually get to that pretty soon. So I think, we could wrap up the games, the highlights of the games, and we can actually talk now about, where we are with, the individual MVP rankings, in terms of ascending order. Where do you stand on the top 5 players playing right now this season?
All right. So right now, my top 5 is at number 5. I got Jimmy Butler.
Okay.
Right. Number 4, DeMar DeRozan. Number 3, the Joker, Jokic. All right. Number 2, Spider, Kevin Durant. And at 1, Mr. 3-pointer himself, Wendell Curry.
I mean that's not bad. That's not bad. I mean that's as good as you could get it, right? I mean, for me, at 5 I got PG.
Okay.
At 4 I have DeRozan. At 3 I have Jokic. At 2 I have KD, and at 1 none other than Steph Curry. So that's my that's my power rank. Well, that's my MVP candidate list right now. I guess in terms of the power ranking for the league right now, if you have to name 5 teams right now by strength based on what you've seen this year, what would you say?
Ooh. See, this one was tough for me because
And before you start, Wilbur said decent, but he's putting Jimmy over DeRozan right now. I mean,
that you see that one, the number 4 and the number 5. It took me a little while to decipher which one I would take over
right,
which one. So I
right.
just took it. I
He
took
said
who was
he
high
said
in the
we
ranking.
he said we don't have love for he said we don't even have love for Jimmy right now.
I
No,
love
we have
Jimmy.
love for Jimmy, man. We have love for Jimmy. I'm just looking at, I think what has me rating DeRozan so highly is the transformation, the impact in Chicago right now. Because we've had Levine, right? And right now, DeRozan is under a lot of pressure as it is without the playoffs. Let's forget the playoffs for a second. And Chicago is what, top 2 in terms of ranking in the Eastern Conference right now.
Yes, correct.
And
Yeah,
that is, so I'm putting that into consideration right now. Who's number 1 in the East right now, by the way? It's not Miami, is it?
the Wiz? No, it's not Miami.
Who is it?
Let me just check real quick. All right, so Wizards.
It's Jesus. Wow. Yeah. Wow. I know, right? That was the furthest thing from my mind. I had to switch like last night or something, right? Yeah, that had to switch like last night.
It switched last night.
Yeah, I can't remember the Wizards being the number 1. Wow. So
Last
maybe
night,
we need
last
to.
night,
But
my
it's
power
been,
rankings is based on last up to Sunday, right?
yeah. Mine is based on that as well. So, all right. So now that we're down to the power rankings, what do you have in terms of your power rankings?
All
For
right, so I
teams?
have I'll start with number 1, obviously, in the power rankings, and that's the best team in the NBA right now, Golden State Warriors.
Right.
Number 2, I got the Chicago Bulls.
Yep.
Number 3, not too far behind because I battled between this. Number 3, Brooklyn. Number 4, I got Phoenix, who's going way under the radar right now. They winning games and they're under the radar. And then at number 5, I had Washington.
Yeah. I mean that's really not bad. That's really not bad. At 5 I have Washington. I have the Jazz at 4. I have Brooklyn at 3. I have Miami at 2. And
Miami?
I got Miami at 2, and I have Golden State at 1.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, the Bulls, don't get me wrong, the Bulls are great, but I need to see more from that package before and as I said, they just beat both LA teams, which is no slouch, right? So they're gonna move up next week in my ranking.
Oh, definitely.
Coming into next week for sure. The Jazz for me are gonna drop. That's just based on looking at who they've played, right? So, but Miami, I look at Miami's play, man, and they're no joke. I mean, but I consider Miami more of a team oriented ball team. I that's why Jimmy still doesn't make it into like my top 3 candidates for MVP,
because
despite me putting Miami.
He's not necessarily the go-to guy. He's
Yeah,
just really the main guy.
he's the main guy. Right. So I just wanted to explain, well, in case the guy starts saying, well, hey, you had Miami too, but you didn't have Jimmy high up on your list for MVP, right? Well, just wanted to clarify that. So before we move on, I got another clip for you, man. I ran into this. Yeah, I ran into this clip. I want you to take a look at this. And the reason behind this clip is actually a lot of people think this guy, when we talk dominance, a lot of people saw this guy as just oversized, not having to work hard with no skills. He was just too big for the league at the time. Not enough teams, putting up unreal video game numbers. But what's behind the numbers? We didn't see it. We didn't see his skill. I've heard a lot of people actually say that. Well, I have some footage for you that may get you rethinking things a bit.
All right,
You
let's
ready to
see
go
it.
there? All
Let's
right, let's
go.
see this, man. Yeah. Um, I needed to drop that just to clear the air because, especially the younger fans, not enough teams. This guy wasn't skilled. This guy didn't have any moves. He was just tall, big, and couldn't be stopped in a league where guys couldn't defend him. And I just want to say to all of you fans that have said that, just swallow it all, okay? Because this guy had the package. When this guy saw Jordan play, and there are clips where he's saying that he would beat Jordan. He had enough skill. He meant it. He actually felt that way. And when you go back to a lot of Wilt's footage, you see the level of domination that this guy had. This guy had footwork. He had the fadeaway jump package. He could bank it off the glass, and of course, we know what he could do on the inside, right? So, we cannot discount what older players brought to the game. That's what I want to do. This show, and trust me, when Mr. Michael Logs Hercules gets his videos up, trust me, you guys are gonna get a thorough education. This is just the beginning. But I just wanted to clear the air on one of the greatest players of all time. Let's respect these players at the highest level. It doesn't matter if they played 50 years ago. These guys had some of the similar packages that you see today. The players you see today are learning off of what these guys did 50, 60 years ago. Okay? So we just needed to see that and clear the air immediately. All right? You're going to get a lot of these videos to educate you, to blow your mind. You're going to see mixtapes on this show. We're not just going to stand here and talk scores and bore you. We're going to talk and break down plays. We're going to analyze different things. It's a thorough show. So you're just getting a taste right now. But any thoughts on what you just saw? I mean, from Wilt?
I mean, there's not much you can add to what Wilt has done. Just look
Yeah.
at the records. They stand for themselves. The only knock he has on his career is that he couldn't
Right.
beat Bill in
Yeah,
the
he couldn't beat Bill.
finals.
Could not.
But I mean, to be fair, Bill did have a better team
Yeah, he did. Every time.
every time. So
Every time.
And they have said that he has kind of, when he reached the finals, he wasn't as dominant as he
Right.
usually is.
Yeah.
So that could be what we were speaking about earlier. Clamp down when you reach the playoffs.
When you get to the playoffs. Yeah.
Because,
And we know with
they'll
him,
turn that on.
yeah, and the great teams, they know you got a great player that you're facing down. You try to negate his impact on the game. Look at the Warriors versus the Cavs in those years. And knowing LeBron, you can't stop him. Just let him get his. But you have to work around with the other players, prevent the other players from doing what they do, and you are able to stop LeBron, stop the threes.
That's
stop
exactly what the
kickouts.
Pistons did to the Lakers.
Exactly.
Let Shaq do his thing.
Yep, and just lock down the rest.
Yep.
But yeah, so we're into that portion where we have the Lakers, right, as part of the discussion. And I promise you, this show is not going to be about the Lakers only and the Warriors, but we're going to start with them and trickle down into the rest of the teams in the NBA. But it's interesting. A lot of people have asked us to talk about, what exactly is happening with the Lakers, their lineup. What exactly is going on? Why is a team that, on paper, if you showed anyone, a lot of people were saying, well, this season is a formality. A lot of Lakers fans were like, All right, just book me for the playoffs, man. We're taking this. We're sweeping through the playoffs. What is going on with LA?
2 words: Frank Vogel.
Frank Vogel.
Frank Vogel is a problem for most of LA's problems, and that's because his rotations aren't great. He's
Right.
not playing guys that needed to be played. He's putting lineups that makes no sense. They
Right.
don't work together. His defensive sets are horrible. He doesn't have a
Right.
proper offensive coordinator.
Right.
Do the Lakers even have an offensive set? They
I
don't.
I don't I don't think so. I haven't
When
seen that.
LeBron is healthy, what they do is they run a high pick and roll with him and AD,
Yep.
and then he has shooters in the corner, and that
Right.
makes no sense
It
because
doesn't. It doesn't. And
you can't have shooters in the corner because I mean, just shooters in the corner. Like nobody's threatening to score. Like who's going to score the ball? Like even if he kicks it out to one of them, like the defender knows that all right, this guy's not a shooter or this guy's a shooter, so I'm just going to lay off him. They
you know,
need to bring in more scorers. Like
it,
like
it's
Carmelo is
funny
fine up there.
because Frank Vogel prides himself on being a coach based on the principles of low isolation per possession basketball. And just as your reaction, I just can't see that. Over the last few years with the Lakers, what have we seen? We saw LeBron dominating the ball, which is expected from LeBron, right? He is a system in himself. But let's go beyond the LeBron alone years.
That's
Let's
right.
go post when AD's here, the players are shipped off. Frank Vogel, when you scout and you look at what Frank Vogel is or states he's all about, this is what you see. A lot of high ball screens, right? Flare screens, pin downs, step up ball screens. There's also a pin down action off the dribble handoff, right? And that's actually known here as the Chicago action. I actually looked that up, but it's weird. But yeah. And the problem with all of this stuff is that these plays is that you're not seeing these being executed in a fluid offense. You're not seeing it.
It looks like it's not even like they didn't even look like they practiced this. It looked like while it's going on in the game. Let's just do a high screen. Right
Exactly. So it's almost like he's giving them, okay, guys, based on how the team reacts, these are the options you have. You have a quarterback on the court that can help you out in LeBron. So he knows the 5 plays that you can run. We've practiced the 5 plays, and based on how this team is set up, you'll react and get it going. But it just does not look fluid when they're executing plays. And it's, I hate to say this is my opinion, but 60 to 70% of the time, it looks like they end up stuck in an isolation play with either AD taking a bad shot. By the way, AD's shooting up until this weekend. I think AD had the lowest percentage for 3-point shooting, maybe in the league, for players that have taken at least 2 shots for the season so far by volume. He's shooting 14% last time I checked. Now that may have changed over the last few games that they played, right?
Maybe. But why is he shooting threes?
Why is he? Didn't he say that he was going to bulk up? We saw the pictures. We saw that.
Bulked
I'm
up,
playing
yeah.
center this year, etc. Wilbur asked a great question. How is this Frank Vogel different from the year they won?
They had Jason Kidd.
They had an offensive-minded coach behind him.
Yeah. But they got lucky. They got lucky because they played the Heat in the final, and the Heat was not a championship team.
No, they
were
weren't.
a team that got lucky to get in the finals.
Yeah.
I could tell that the Lakers were that bad because the Heat won 2 games.
Yeah, they won 2 games. And any other team would have really pushed that Laker team. Now, keep in mind, you have to factor in it's the bubble, and these guys were playing a lot of adrenaline basketball. You're talking AD coming out with a long-range 3 to beat. Was it the Nuggets they beat off that 3 where he yells Kobe? Yeah. So I mean, a lot of different plays where they were just relying on star power to really push them through, and the stars really stepped up and came through for them in the right moments. But ultimately, you're right. 2 words: Frank Vogel.
Vogel's
There are a
a
lot
problem.
of metrics out there that point to him not being really a good coach.
Like
And
how are you a coach and you don't know how to use Montrezl Harrell? Have you
yeah,
never seen him play?
yeah,
Like
it's
you have like he's not even like a rookie. He's not a sophomore player. You see what he did with the Clippers. Y'all got him. You're supposed to know how to utilize him when he gets to LA. How is it possible that you have him on the bench and you just don't want to play him? That
the
makes no
mere
sense.
fact that you have a front office that gets you LeBron James. You get LeBron James, and you don't get shooters around LeBron James. Knowing what LeBron James can do with shooters, it's just mind blowing. I understand you have AD. Don't get me wrong. But LeBron is a system of basketball that can win you a chip if you have the right pieces. And you're telling me that you have some vets that have shot maybe at least 40% once or twice in their career. Sure. But you're telling me you had a chance to grab a Buddy Hield, right, from Sacramento, and you passed up on Buddy Hield to get a Westbrook who we knew any fan could tell you that Westbrook trade was not going to work out in LA. I don't know a
Don't
fan
forget.
that looks at basketball that tells you that trade works.
Don't
Go ahead.
forget
Go ahead.
that's who AD and LeBron wanted. They wanted
A
Westbrook.
playmaker, right?
They
So
wanted a
LeBron,
playmaker.
so theoretically, LeBron could sit off ball and AD could play center, right?
Exactly. Especially for when LeBron is off the ball or if he's on the bench or something. They never had a playmaker.
Yeah.
But LeBron doesn't need playmakers. He needs scorers and all right. So if I had to have a starting line, if I had to have a lineup on the floor, it would be
Right.
LeBron, AD, one spot up shooter, and two scorers. So
Yeah.
like a Lou Williams type, like a couple of Lou Williams type, and then a spot up shooter like JJ Redick.
Right.
So once they can play defense, I'll be good.
So
That's
so
all you really
John
need.
so John actually asked, okay, I've heard your thoughts on Vogel. What about Russell Westbrook? His impact, his his contract.
Okay, so the problem is Vogel isn't putting Westbrook in good positions to be
Right.
great. He's not putting he's putting the players that he's putting outside with Westbrook doesn't make him look good. So in OKC, what they did was they had a couple shooters in OKC. Remember when he was still getting
back to shooters.
triple doubles?
Yep.
Right. So Westbrook plays better with shooters. Similar to LeBron, he plays better with shooters.
Right.
Or with a guy like AD, like if Steven Adams kind of type player, instead of coming out doing a pick and pop, you do a pick and roll. Just go straight to the basket. He'll get you the ball.
Right.
And so they're not putting him in the best position to be great.
And it goes back to, really the rotation that Frank Vogel is
Exactly.
playing. To me, you look at his rotations and I see a coach that doesn't know the best rotation he has, how to utilize his players. Because I think in that squad, you can probably get a setup that works for Westbrook. I always thought that at this stage, you could still have LeBron on ball and push Westbrook into the second unit, where he's able to do some of his work because they need scoring, right? You need scoring with that second unit. Have Westbrook still commit to slashing the ball. That's what he does best.
Yeah, and he pushes the ball well.
Yeah.
He's a willing passer.
He's a willing passer. So so those guys in the second unit can get their points. Again, I'm of the opinion that the Lakers, after they won the title, should have kept that team together. Just kept it together and maybe just add one more shooter in the mix. Maybe look at moving KCP's contract for a more, I would say KCP's was adding to the defense, right? So a lot of these guys were buying into the defense, and I felt like they let go of that. And then when you brought in a guy like Gasol, who is really, he can move the ball. He's willing to make that extra pass and he can stretch the floor, but he is too slow.
He never fit into that system.
Just wasn't gonna fit. So at the end of the day, you gave up Dwight Howard, you gave up JaVale McGee, who can get you rebounds, they can get you defensive stops. and you can rotate them. I think you had a good team there to just run it back, at least try to run it back. It would have been better to me than what showed up for the playoffs last year. So,
And also
yeah,
don't forget defensively, they're not that great either. But
right.
they also gave up Caruso
Yeah, they did.
and KCP, who was two of their wing defenders.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Caruso is what, number one or number two in the league in deflections,
And
something
he's
like that.
coming off the
And he's
bench.
coming
He's
off
number
the
one in
bench,
steals. Number one in steals
off the
off the
bench.
bench. That's crazy. I think you may have to start pointing some of this blame to Palinka, man. Some of it might have to go to
At some
Palinka
point, at some point.
because some of those moves. I mean, you look at Caruso right now, and you have to ask yourself, why didn't they just pay this man some extra money?
I saw the interview in which they asked him how much he was paid, and they didn't. They were trying to. They didn't want to give him any money.
No, that was
They
it.
didn't want to give him any money.
It was like, take it or we don't mind you stepping out the door.
Yeah,
So
they didn't
yeah,
want to give
it's one of those things that you have to question, man. But yeah, no, that's interesting. That's interesting. So, well, the Lakers, I think, we'll talk about them more because again, expectations are high with them. Now we'll move on to a section called the Art of War. The Warriors themselves. Someone, by the way, says Wilbur says once my guy Melo gets a ring, um, I'm good. Unfortunately, it will mean Braun gets another ring. I don't know.
Braun gets another ring.
I don't know. Braun gets another ring. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
of course, Braun needs to get another ring, man. I think
don't see LeBron get another ring.
he's gonna pass Malone on the scoring list, and
Yes.
eventually. Why we're laughing? No, I mean, it's just the Lakers, man. It's just the Lakers, and what's going on there right now, and the amount of work they have to do to get back in that conversation.
Definitely.
I think that's the reason for the laughing. But ultimately, they have so much work, man. They have so much work. I think the Warriors right now, I think, are flying. Obviously, they seem to be back in stride when it comes to their offensive and defensive ratings. They're right back up on top of the league across the board. Points being generated, the extra passing, and this is without Clay, which is scary. I never anticipated this. I would say it's still early, but I'm running out of excuses. I had these guys going into the play-in game at the beginning of the season.
Yes, you did. I
And
remember that.
and I've had to hide. Hopefully I didn't make a bet with you going into that,
I know.
because I think we bet like 2 Stellas. For those who
Yes,
don't know,
yeah,
Stella is like a beer, because we couldn't agree. I drink whenever I'm in the islands, I drink a beer called Carib. For those who are not from the Caribbean. Better than Stag, by the way, but yeah, we'll start that debate another time. So he just wanted to avoid the debate, so he was like, all right, we're not gonna argue over which beer is best, but I'll bet you some Stella, and so he agreed to that, and that was that. So we have 2 Stellas on the line, and so far I'm not doing too well with that. The Warriors are killing it absolutely with the MVP of the league right now, just putting up absolutely alien numbers. This guy is not born on the planet Earth. He is not born here. Okay, it doesn't make sense to me because everything on paper that I looked at said, you know what, the Warriors have potential, but coming in with Poole, these guys are gonna melt off after a couple games. The high is gonna go away, and then they're gonna just sink, and before you know it, they're 6, 7, 8 fighting for life to get through the playoffs. Right now, wow.
All right. So
Who in the West is beating the Warriors, man?
What's happening right now is that the Warriors are looking like the Warriors before KD.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And they were a wreck, right? They wrecked the whole NBA.
Yeah.
When they were there, and mind you, they're doing that without Clay,
Without
a healthy Clay, without James Winston, Wiseman.
Yeah,
Wiseman
Wiseman.
isn't back.
Hmm.
He's not back either. So you can only imagine that when Clay comes back, he just slots in. And also, you have to remember that the
Yeah.
system they run in Golden State is around the MVP himself,
Yeah, it
Steph.
is. It
They
is.
also have to remember they lead the league in touches. What is it? It dribbles per touch or something like that.
Yeah.
They lead the league in that. So that means they're sharing the ball.
They lead the league in like 5
Everything.
to 6 different
Almost
metrics. Okay,
everything.
defensive rating, offensive rating. I mean, I looked at it today, and it's almost like the stock market, a V recovery. Literally, you go back to 2014, it's up here. It dips all the way down, and then it's like a V-shaped recovery, which to me says that
Crazy.
someone within the organization really went in, looked at those players they were acquiring below the belt again, and they assembled a squad that could generate a similar style to what they did back then. And to do that, I mean, a V-shaped recovery when it comes to stocks is means an immediate recovery. You know, so when you see that with an NBA team, any statistician will tell you that they've done something that has legitimately repaired the problems they were seeing with the roster. And that's with Clay out. That's with Wiseman out. And Wiseman still has some adjusting to do. He's a young player, but the fact that Clay is out bothers me, man. I'm not a Warriors fan, and that bothers me.
The last couple of years with that V, where they went down. Clay was injured.
Yeah.
Draymond was injured. Steph was injured.
Yep.
Right. So had all of that, and that's because, well, we like to put speculation, but that's because of the trips to the NBA Finals. So
right.
Wear and tear on your body.
And we have to give credit as well to certain players, right? We have to give credit to the trades that they've done. It's someone asked a question: is this a coincidence? Golden State Warriors playing most times the collective bargaining podcast is being aired. Actually, that's me trying to spoil it for the Golden State Warrior fans, man. But you remember last week, one of their fans hacked my feed, right? My camera just cut during the game, and I had that issue there. I had to unplug and reboot. So I'm happy that I could take away some of their time to the game. But to be honest, no, that recovery and the adjustments they've made it's just amazing. Andrew Wiggins, you have to give praise for him fitting in that system, and actually the team standing by him, right? During that
took
period.
a while to get adjusted.
It did. So Jordan Poole, obviously,
he's playing like a Harrison Barnes type.
He is, and I think he has a little bit more maturity to his game. So I think that potentially, from what he could bring to his offense, he does have an offensive package to me. This guy used to be called young Lil Kobe, right? At one point with that fadeaway jumper, right? That he used to have. So, and he does have some defense as well, right? So he fits right into that that area too. It's incredible what they're doing over there. So to me, they're going to be it's early. That's what I would say. Let's give it time. I still have some time to win those two Stellas back from you. So we'll see what essentially happens.
20 games hasn't gone yet.
Exactly. Let's wait. And besides, they did start with an easier schedule. Other than the Lakers, they haven't played really any top teams so far, right? If you look at their schedule.
Let's not forget the Lakers have had one of the easiest schedules as well.
True, and they haven't done well. So I'm hoping that the reality is that that catches up to the Warriors and we start to see some dipping in that form, because it's scary right now. It's reminding me of that.
It's early, but they should be on a good headspace, because you're thinking about blowing out teams, winning by this much, and you sharing the ball. When it comes to the harder teams, it's just going to be like clockwork.
Absolutely. So, I have another video to play for you. Now that we're through the list, and this is an old commercial. Tell me if you remember this when it came out.
All right, gentlemen, let's have some big plane basketball. Shaq brings up the ball, passes to Shaq in the corner, feeds it to Shaq in the post, who's got Shaq all over it. Wow, what a matchup this is going to be.
Shaq, get in for Shaq. You guys, big good-looking guy.
It's rejected. Back the other way, blocked. Back the other way, blocked again. There's a souvenir for a lucky fan. And at the half, we are tied at 0.
Man, these guys play. Yeah, no.
No, it's one of those old ones for Reebok, man. No, classics,
forgot
man.
about
Classics, 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 classics. Yeah, no,
The most dominant player ever.
yeah, definitely. I would say he's up there, man. I say with Wilt, he's up there. But in my time, definitely, I think, when it comes to GOAT, I think I'm willing to make an adjustment to that topic. Greatest of their time, I think. So GOT rather than GOAT. I think if we move to greatest of their time, then we could have a better argument, because then you're not on the hook for having to say, okay, what about this guy in the 70s versus this guy, in this LeBron era, right, that we're in. So, I mean, you're comparing players that played against each other, etc., right?
Right. So I got a question.
Yeah.
Why is it that the NBA or the media surrounding the NBA always their number one question is, who's the GOAT? They cover this GOAT talk more than any other sport.
Because it
Like
sells.
even tennis doesn't sell this. And tennis they got 3 men that got 20 chips right now.
Yeah.
And they don't even be debating like as much as the NBA about who's the GOAT, a team sport.
So sports that to me have an electrified GOAT conversation going on sell tickets. They sell the conversation. There is no sport on this planet right now that sells a narrative better than the NBA. There is none. You even look at the Premier League right now, where you have Ronaldo, and that Ronaldo versus Messi conversation is driving football through the roof when these guys play, right? The Champions League, etc. But I think the NBA, it's a nightly debate across all platforms, and that sells. It sells. Again, any press is still good or bad, is still press at the end of the day. The NBA has a thorough understanding of this, and they have embraced that fully. So at the end of the day, you look at Formula One, I'll bring you back there, right? Lewis Hamilton has 7 titles, world championships. He's now tied with Michael Schumacher at 7 championships. He's now 16 points or less behind Max Verstappen with 3-4 races left in the season. If he gets this driver's title, he passes Michael Schumacher, right? And that agitates Michael Schumacher fans, and it electrifies Lewis Hamilton fans. And that has been driving interest through the roof for the sport. And you can even argue that what's happening right now is he's transcending the sport as a result. So what's happening right now in the NBA, to answer your question, is the NBA has embraced, because they have a great understanding. They have the actual, unlike other sports that just had great guys establish themselves, the NBA has had guys that set themselves far apart, that you used to call GOAT back then, like the Wilts, like the Oscars, like Dr. J for many people was even a GOAT.
That's true.
You have Magic. You have Kareem. So, and then you had Jordan that came into the mix. And then Kobe, LeBron, etc. You have others in between that have been maybe part briefly for that conversation. But, I think they've embraced it. And it sells. It sells. It translates into sales. So, yeah, it's one of those intriguing things. But ultimately, is there any weight to that conversation at the end of the day? No, it's just a debate. It's a barbershop topic.
It's a bunch of opinions.
I think if the subject was about greatest of their time, and you had a time alignment that showed you the best players over time, which we might do, to be honest, to show what our opinion is, I think you end up really seeing who were the best players of that era. I think that's the way it should be done. So, yeah.
I agree completely.
Yeah, no, it's been great, man. The league is just in a wonderful place today, as we discussed last week. And despite COVID, despite all the stuff that's going on right now with Kyrie and some of the other players that are refusing to play, and Ben, the league has still been going good. We're getting exciting games. We're getting tight games. We're getting good fluid basketball for some teams. I think we're starting to establish who are the teams that are going to be playing good basketball this year. So
We got
I'm
the pretenders and the contenders
yeah, yeah,
out the way.
yeah. I just wish that my fantasy teams could come through for me, the way I thought they would, but that's
Same,
definitely not happening,
same.
man. That's definitely not happening.
Yeah,
So, but
that's
it's been great, man. So what do you have for me this time around, man? What do you want to put up in terms of betting, man? Any bets for me this time around, and anything at all?
I don't have any bets at the moment. I'll
All
probably
right,
have one for
cool.
you on Thursday when we come back.
And I
I'm
know you'll
thinking
have
of
some.
one.
All right, all right.
Thinking of
I,
one
I
right
know
now.
you'll have some footage as well, man. So
Oh,
I'm
definitely. I
I'm
got
I'm dying
footage,
to
and I'll
see that.
probably even have some trivia
Yeah, I'm
for
dying
the
to see that.
people.
By the way, that trivia is gonna be something else, man. He's throwing like some numbers at me, and I'm like scratching my head, like you don't know the names of the players, but he gives you the stats, and he's like, okay, which one would you take? And when you make that selection, it's intriguing because the other guy that you thought wouldn't be that impactful turns out to be the more impactful player. So I'm
The more
I'm looking
impactful player.
forward to those stats, man. And maybe we
Yeah.
could even get some of the audience to chime in on it as well, So, but this has been good, man. This has definitely been good. I hope you guys like the footage. A lot more of it is going to be coming. We could even take your suggestions. Just take part in the group. Feel free to invite your friends as well, because we want more and more people to take part. We want it to be more of a conversation. And at some point, we'll actually be asking folks to come on in and have something to say, if you really want to take part in this digital conversation. But feel free, post things in the group, so we could comment, we could see your thoughts on different things. We might even add it to the list of things to discuss weekly. We're here Tuesdays and Thursdays around the same time. Okay. And we normally put out a flyer saying that we're here. As you can see, we have the logo up, with the basketball, with the collective bargaining name, etc. So you're gonna see that everywhere. But yeah, and even if you can't grab the episodes live, we're on demand. As soon as we're done recording, it saves it to all the platforms. It's even available in the Facebook group. So tune in and enjoy. Okay, leave a question in the comments for us. It's never late. Okay. But yeah, we're happy to be here. We're happy to have you guys, and this is cool, man. I'm enjoying this, man.
Yeah, I'm having fun. I
Yeah,
want to do this for a very long time, man.
definitely,
I
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
talking about what you like, and that's it. It's pretty cool.
I trust me, It's up there, man, with things. So, with that said, I mean, I don't know if you want to give any shout outs today or anything like that, but yeah.
Oh, right now I'd probably just give a shout out to the Greens Bay podcast. They do a nice little NFL. They do an NFL podcast, and it's pretty
Uh-oh.
good.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, up and coming, man. They up and coming.
I got to
So
check that
just
one
look
out,
up.
man.
Yeah, Green Beige podcast. It's good. Grenadian and Bayesian.
Hey, somebody, you know what? Next episode, I'm putting a section for the Knicks. All right? As much as I dislike the Knicks, all right? Not the city, the Knicks. All right? Because I love New York
I
City.
love New York.
I love the people, but the Knicks need to be thrown in a hot dumpster, okay? As well as MSG. But that's just me, okay? We'll discuss the Knicks and break them down, because they definitely have transformed the culture out there. There's no doubt that the Knicks have really worked things out. And I think that deserves, really its own time and space, just like we did today for certain teams. I don't want to rush that conversation, because I want to pour in some hate. I want to show some respect. I mean, if it's anyone on the podcast to show love to the Knicks, is going to be Michael, but not me, man. I'll just give you as it is objectively, but apart from that, it's he
The
said,
only
Wilbur
thing
said
bad
the
about
only
the Knicks is
bad
Dolan.
thing is Dolan. Hey, it's true, man. I mean, look at this guy's track record, but amazingly, he's taken his hands off the wheel and they immediately have been able to do some work, get some work done. I'm actually surprised that they're lower in the East than they are right now, but I think they'll manage that. They have the right coach, they
Yeah,
have the right
they'll
system.
figure it out. They just have to
Yeah,
tweak a couple of things and
this
then be
guy's
fine.
learning. Exactly. And I think it deserves some time to break down their plays, maybe look at a few of their plays, etc. We could start doing that. Again, if there's anything in particular that you want us to look at with the Knicks and talk about, feel free to drop it in the group chat, or make a post and we'll actually come out. But you're right. It's early in the season. Really hard to gauge them. Guys are just getting it going, so very young team, but you have the right pieces, and I think you have the system to win games. It's just a matter of, can this come together at just the right time for the playoffs? So we'll actually see. But last year, man, it sucked watching the Knicks get into the playoffs and Chicago missing that. But this year, I think I think we'll be above them. But hey, that's a whole different conversation. Let's see what happens. Let's see what
They were
happens.
good. I was surprised that Atlanta destroyed them like that
Yeah, yeah.
last
It's I think consistency is needed. Consistency is needed, and an understanding of the playoffs and the way it changes your game and how you have to adjust is needed there in that city. So we'll see what happens. But if we could get a consistent Knicks team with the right mix of vets, which you have, again, in my mind, you have it, but there's something clearly missing, right? And they face up with the Nets early, and we get a 7-game series.
That's not happening.
Oh my, I know it's not happening, but oh my God, I would love that. That's what I ultimately want. I want good basketball, right? So
Oh, yeah.
if you could give me that out to your Knicks, Wilbur, make a few calls, make a few changes to your friend. He said
Knicks
Knicks
in
in
six.
6. We wait. Knicks in 6 against who? A 5, maybe consisting of us. Not the Nets right now. Not the Nets right now.
Oh wow.
He's probably wondering. Same thing I said. Why you laughing? Hey, you're touching a nerve with these Knicks fans, man. We're gonna lose viewers, man.
I said Knicks in 6.
Hey, he said you know what? I'm not even getting into that right now. The Nets are to me a different tier right now because of the experience they have. But I think let's just wait for half the season and let's come back to that conversation. But we'll still discuss the Knicks. We'll dive into the Knicks, their coaching, the players they acquired, and look at what's happening really. And maybe we could have some of your input too in that conversation. Because I know definitely some of you are peeled to what's happening in New York. So this has been great. And of course, I want to thank all of you for tuning in to the podcast. We're going to let you guys get back to your NBA viewing and everything that's going on in your world. And hopefully we get this going again Thursday. All right.
Definitely. See you guys later. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate y'all as usual.
Appreciate it.
See y'all Thursday.
Thanks for the support. Peace, y'all. Collective Bargaining Podcast. Yeah. Knicks in 6. Yeah. All right, man. Bless. Peace out.